So a red flag is if, let's say that one agent represents 30, 40, 50% of your gross commission income. That's a red flag. It's not a bad thing. In fact, a lot of brokerages are like that, right? Where you have one superstar and a whole bunch of associate members that help him or her. But that's a red flag for a purchaser. Because when you think about it, if I'm purchasing, if you build a brokerage of 50 agents, Lancelot, and I'm purchasing your brokerage and one agent represents half of all the money you bring in, if she leaves, my values just walked out the door, literally. So that is one red flag.
Today on the Real Estate Roundtable, we're pulling back the curtain on one of the most misunderstood parts of our industry, what a real estate brokerage is actually worth, and how the smartest leaders grow, scale, and exit on their own terms. Most agents dream about building a brokerage. Few ever understand how to turn that dream into a sellable, scalable asset, but our guest does. Joining us is Norma Rawlings. Yes, like J.K. Rowling. Real estate professional, valuation strategist with BrokerVMA, and co-author of The Complete Guide to Buying and Selling Real Estate Brokerages, 10 Steps to Success. Norma has helped broker owners across the country understand the true value of their business, navigate mergers and acquisitions, and execute exits that protect legacy, wealth, operational stability. If you've ever wondered, could my brokerage be worth more than I think? Or what would it take to grow through acquisition? Or even, how do I step away as a winner when the time comes? Then stay tuned. This conversation could redefine the way you think about your business. Norma, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Lancelot. My pleasure.
Norma, before we dig into valuations and M&A, take us back. What first opened your eyes to the fact that brokers desperately needed more structure and clarity around buying, selling, and valuing brokerages?
So it's interesting. Oftentimes when we start a brokerage, it's a high-performing agent who thinks to him or herself, you know what, I'm going to go out on my own and I'm going to save the money that I'm paying to my broker and I'm going to be my own boss. And it starts often very modestly. But what brokers find is once you hit about 25 agents or more, you spend a lot more time managing those agents than you do selling. And so as I watch that evolution, I realized that a lot of times you don't go into it thinking, what's it going to be worth when I'm done? But once you hit about 25 agents, then you start to think, okay, this probably has some value to somebody. And that evolution continues. The larger you become, the more time you're spending managing versus selling, the more hopefully you're creating in value. So it's that evolution that interests me. And when you look at your business from a third party's point of view, it's always fascinating to figure out that somebody else feels what you've built has value. That's a validation. That's a fabulous feeling as a broker owner.
So you were at that point in your brokerage history that you reached 25 agents and you were like, what am I going to do next? Was it that point? What was the turning point?
I've never been a real estate broker. I am an attorney by training. I have an MBA. I speak a bit of French, as you and I talked about, not particularly well, but enough to have a degree in it. And I've always been involved in real estate in some capacity. And my partner in BrokerVMA has been in the industry for, I think, 41 years. So about 3 years ago, he and I were having lunch, maybe 3.5 now, Lancelot. And he said to me, Norma, I'm doing a ton of broker coaching and there's all this opportunity to buy and sell these brokerages. And my brokers don't know how to do it. And I need help. And he's one of my favorite people in the world, Lancelot. So I'm like, okay, Wayne, I'm in. And so that's when we started BrokerVMA. And that process is where I've learned about how brokers with 25 plus agents have something of value, right? They have something that's sellable to a third party, even if they didn't intend to when they started.
Awesome. So most brokers have no idea what their business is actually worth. What elements create a true valuation beyond just agent count or gross commission?
It's a great question. So we've been having one of our clients is looking to purchase luxury brokerages. And they were telling me about somebody they met who said, I have 50 luxury agents and my brokerage is worth $100 million. And the company's like, that's $2 million an agent. Like that metric just doesn't work. Other brokers, I had a Florida guy, nice man, ran an independent. He had 120 agents, and his son-in-law valued the brokerage at $3.5 million. And I said, unfortunately, it just doesn't scan. It's not a high-tech business, it's a people business, and every part of the value is dependent on keeping those agents when you transition. So the way that we typically value Lancelot is we look at about 20 different metrics. The first is cash. What does the business spin out in cash every year? That's what we call the EBITDA. That is one of the drivers of value. The second driver of value is how many agents do you have? The third value driver is what's your total sales volume a year? Because that speaks to your heft within the marketplace. The fourth is what are your splits? What's your gross commission income coming in? The fifth is how sticky are those agents? If you leave, are they going to go to the person that buys them? And oftentimes that raises the issue that if you're going to sell your real estate brokerage, you can't just glide off into the sunset the next day because it's a relationship business. You have to stick around to make sure that your agents, whom you are very concerned about because they've been there for you, they've grown with you, you have to make sure they transition smoothly and they're happy with the new owner. So it's an interesting question about how you value a brokerage. The other thing that's relevant, is it luxury? Is it mid-market? Is it discount? Because a luxury agent is worth more than a discount agent. An agent that does 20 deals a year is worth more than one who does two. It seems obvious, but all those factors go into the mix when you value a brokerage.
Got you. When you begin a valuation, what are the red flags and the hidden strengths you typically identify?
Great. Another great question. So a red flag is if, let's say that one agent represents 30, 40, 50% of your gross commission income. That's a red flag. It's not a bad thing. In fact, a lot of brokerages are like that, right? Where you have one superstar and a whole bunch of associate members that help him or her. But that's a red flag for a purchaser. Because when you think about it, if you build a brokerage of 50 agents, Lancelot, and I'm purchasing your brokerage and one agent represents half of all the money you bring in, if she leaves, my values just walked out the door, literally. So that is one red flag. Another red flag is sometimes if a broker's in a hurry to sell, you wonder if there's something going on that isn't transparent on the surface. We saw that in Ontario recently with a huge brokerage in Ontario where a whole bunch of money went missing and all of a sudden they wanted to sell and they had 1,500 agents, which is a huge, huge business. And there was a whole big trust issue. Like a hasty speed to exit is a red flag. And the other red flag is a broker owner that doesn't want to stick around. So if all they want to do is get the heck out of Dodge, it's difficult as a purchaser to ensure that the agents transition over to you and don't scatter to the winds. So those are three red flags that we see from time to time.
Awesome. And any hidden strengths?
Oh, yeah. If a broker is involved in the local community, if they sit on real estate boards, if like you, they've got charities they support, like your Ugandan initiative, if they are good people, if they have a stellar reputation, if their agents have been with them for 18 years, 12 years, 5 years, like long tenure. Because Florida, where you are, agent tenure is lower than in other parts of the country. So Florida is a more transitory market with agents. And so I'll often see a brokerage of 50 agents in Wyoming, and they might have 3 people leave and 2 people join in a year. I see that same brokerage in Daytona Beach, and they will have 10 people leave and 9 people come in a year. It's dramatically different how mobile Florida agents are. Those are all things that you think about or look at when you think of strengths, is the stickiness of the agents, the broker's reputation in the community, how community minded are they, how long do the agents stick around, how long have they been in business. The other component that's really attractive right now to a lot of buyers is how much of your business is luxury. Luxury is a real buzzword in the market right now. And where you are, as there's a huge dichotomy of listings, right? You've got high end, you've got the middle market, you've got the discount market. The luxury market is very attractive to a lot of buyers right now. So lots of things to keep in mind. And the other thing that's really nice for a purchaser is if you have steady cash flow. So if you run a brokerage of 100 agents and you've spit out $400,000 cash a year consistently the last 3 years, very attractive, because all of a sudden a purchaser realizes there's stability there. I should be able to repeat that.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. That's eye-opening. Why is getting a professional valuation earlier in the journey so important, whether a broker is growing, merging, or thinking about exiting?
I had a gal so we work in all 50 states, all 10 provinces of Canada. I've never done any business in the territories yet, or Alaska, or Hawaii. So I should say 48 states and 10 provinces. But we had a gal out in Calgary. We had another one in Washington State. Both of them wanted to sell. So I did a professional valuation for them. And after doing the professional valuation, they said to me, the number's not high enough. And I said, okay. And they said, but what I love is it gives me a blueprint as to how to make it the number I need it to be. So what the valuation does is it gives you about 20 metrics that tell you how a third party is going to look at your brokerage, how they're going to value your brokerage. And so it's a tool that those two ladies said, okay, one in Calgary said, I'm going to now work on these 3 things to increase the value of my brokerage. The one in Washington said, I'm on the cusp of bringing on a 10 agent team, which is going to increase my GCI, my bottom line. I'm going to fully bring that on, have them with me for a year, and then look to sell, because again, it increases the value of her brokerage. So that's one reason that people get a valuation, is to educate themselves on how a third party would look at it. Another reason is we have a lot of succession as in the industry. Lots of fathers want to sell to daughters. Lots of moms want to sell to sons. There's a huge tradition in real estate brokerages of passing it on to one of your children, a nephew, a niece, a cousin. And so we do a lot of valuations so that we can structure a deal that's fair to the child in the business and also fair to the children that aren't in the business. So that's another reason that we do valuations. A third would be, some people do tax transactions, estate planning. They want to know what it's worth. And then the most common reason people do valuations is because they're looking to sell. And so it functions as, if you think about if you were to bring on a townhouse community that you wanted to sell to the market, you would do a CIM, right? You would do some sort of offering to say, this is what it is that you're buying if you're selling to the developer who's going to purchase the land. The valuation acts as the same. It basically says, okay, Lancelot, if you're looking at buying this brokerage, this is what it is, right? These are the financial statements. This is the history. This is the agent count. This is the sales volume. It gives you all the metrics you need to then make an informed decision as to whether it's something you want to pursue or not. So if you think about someone who owns a brokerage and is considering exiting that brokerage and doesn't have family members that they want to sell to or a management group they want to sell to, we will do a valuation and then we'll assist them sell the brokerage to a third party using that valuation. And so the benefit of that is the confidentiality when we're involved is nobody knows you want to sell. So we vet the people before we ever have them sign an NDA to see the valuation. But that's the fourth reason people obtain a valuation.
Growing through acquisition is becoming a major strategy for brokers. What foundational steps should a leader take before even approaching an acquisition opportunity?
So recruiting is challenging. I think it's the bane of most.
Challenging, not broker level. It's totally different ballgame.
It's just no fun. You work so hard to bring on 3, 4, 5 new agents, only to have 7 and leave. It's it's, again, it's one of those things that brokers hate to do. And so we have a strategy we call growth through acquisition, right? Recruiting through acquisition, where if you want to grow your brokerage. So right now with the Anywhere Compass purchase percolating, scale is the key. And the challenge with being a broker right now is you've got a low transaction market, right? 4 million units in the States, 450,000 in Canada, low. At one point,
from, I think 2022, we had 2 million transactions.
well,
So order.
what's crazy is if you think about the low transaction market, you realize that you need more agents to spread your expenses across, right? You can't make money anymore unless you're a luxury person with sort of a main street brokerage. If you've got 25 agents, you're struggling because you don't have enough agents to spread your costs around. And so recruiting through acquisition is, okay, I have 25 agents, I want to grow to 50. If you're going to do that one by one, you're going to have no hair left by the time you end up at 50, right? Because it's just such a difficult process. But if you look at some of your competitors and say, okay, they're probably in the same boat I am. They're probably struggling to pay the bills. They probably are having the same pain points I am. And so what you do is you engage in conversations with those people. You don't typically call them up and go, Lancelot, you want to sell? Because you're going to tell me to saw it off. But you call them and say, Lancelot, can we sit down and have coffee and discuss how maybe we might work together to make this easier on both of us, because it's a difficult market. So you start those conversations. We have some really active buyers, some really active broker buyers. They will have 20 conversations going on at any one time, or 10 or 5. And they literally, you and I talked earlier before we started our podcast about when you write something down, you subconsciously move towards it. And so what they'll do is they'll say, Norma, I'm going to try to have 5 conversations a week with prospective competitors whom I might buy. And so they reach out and they have those conversations. And as you and I know, maybe in 10 conversations, you might have one where there's interest, but that's okay. Because if you have one broker with 25 agents and you're sitting with 25 agents, and that works out that you can do a deal where you purchase their brokerage, they stick around for 3 years, you do a buyout over time, huge win-win. The person selling's thrilled because they no longer have the burden of running this brokerage or the expense each month. And the person buying is thrilled because they've just gone from 25 to 50. And all of a sudden, those expenses, which a lot of times they have more capacity to take on more agents, but they're a certain amount, you've got 50 agents to spread them across. So that's the recruiting through acquisition concept, is have those conversations with prospective competitors, and not in a way to say, I want to buy you, but more in a way to say, how are you finding the market? What are you seeing as opportunities? How could we maybe work together to make it easier for both of us? And those conversations then often lead to, you know what, Lancelot, I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. And then if you're the buyer, you're like, great, I'm interested in purchasing. Let's work something out. So we often help with those types of situations.
Can you get, there's 2 questions I have. One, what makes your brokerage a brokerage that the agents would stick to? The other question is, can these deals be structured in a way that it's a zero down deal, long-term play, kind of a way of acquiring the other brokerage?
Yes. So I'm going to start with the second question first. In this marketplace, we have 2 types of brokerages. We have brokerages that have cash, that spin off cash every year, despite the low transaction market. And those brokerages receive cash on closing. So we recently did one in Arizona, one in Wyoming. We're working on one in Texas. They'll get a check on closing, right? They'll get a chunk of change on closing, and then they'll get a payout over the next 2 or 3 years. That's one type of brokerage. But the other type of brokerage, which you just spoke about, is if I have 25 agents and I'm in Maryland and I am making no money, that's a perfect opportunity for someone else in Maryland who wants to grow to say, listen, I'll take over your expenses, I'll take over your agents, and I will pay you a portion of your gross commission income or a portion of your gross margin for the next 3 years. Perfect structure. And in those situations, they often don't have to pay for a valuation, because there's no point. You don't have to value it. All you have to do is they pay us to structure the deal so that you have this payout that's variable based on what the 3 years brings. And it motivates the person selling to stick around, to encourage their agents to continue to produce, but doesn't have the burden of running it, doesn't have the burden of having to come up with the money each month to cover a deficiency. And for the purchaser, brilliant, no money down, doubling your brokerage and pay out over 3 years using the money that the agents generate from that brokerage. So yes, definitely a definite yes to your second question.
Okay.
As far as stickiness of agents, each market is different. As I mentioned, Florida is the most transitory in the US, but it's about, agents have so much choice right now, and it's about a compelling value proposition to them and creating a culture where they feel valued, right? Where they feel assisted, they feel valued, they feel like they can make a living selling real estate. And we've seen, interestingly enough, in COVID, a lot of people took down their bricks and mortar, right? They like dramatically, they scaled it down because agents weren't coming to the office. We're seeing a lot of times now where brokers are investing in a trendy, neat space, might be set up as a cafe, might be set up as various offices, but a place where agents can physically come to hang out, generate ideas, get creative. That's been a real sticky, it makes agents stickier, because the problem with a digital brokerage, as you and I both know, is there's no touch. You don't actually touch the agents personally. And the sporting events that you and I see, the music concerts, the reason people love those is it's a person to person event. And so we're seeing some brokers try to create stickiness through cool spaces like that. And we're not back to huge square footage. It's more a dedicated space where every week agents get together, they do a training session, they have lunch. It's a place to go to see people, to generate ideas, to become motivated again, to go out and try to find those new clients.
That's awesome. So it's like Google style, like
yeah,
tables, whatever, foosball, maybe do a little cafe, as you said, have a barista on staff and run it like a cafe for your agents in a way.
Yeah.
So, like, have a nice espresso machine.
Because Lancelot, it facilitates that one-on-one connection that we're missing right now. You have a son, I have 4 children. Like, the lure of electronics.
Put a playroom in.
Right.
Yeah.
The lure of electronics is high, but people they crave that personal connection. And if you can provide it to them, it makes your agent stickier.
I have personal experience in that several years now. I was with EXP prior to my current brokerage. I've been with my current brokerage almost 5 years now. And EXP was like, okay, let's go into the cloud and let's meet people in the cloud. I'm like, everybody looks the same. It's just a big bunch of little on top of each other. It's not, 10,000 people in the room. Yay. I'm like, I'm alone in the room. You get what I'm saying? Chat's like going up. You can't read through it because everybody's talking. I'm like, it's crazy. That's one way I saw that. I think that you should have an element like that for agents that are working further away, to give them opportunities to join in on the training, even mobilely, because a lot of agents are on the road. Hey, you want to be in the training? We're doing it on Zoom. There'll be a camera. You'll be able to see and ask questions if you want. So definitely want to do that in a way. And the other thing was that I noticed was with my current broker, I've been telling him that we need an office in our area, because our agents, our local agents, also the more senior agents, which is the average age of, what is the average age right now? 50, 60 for a real estate agent. I'm a young one. I started when I was 29. I was super young when I started being a real estate agent. And back then it was 50, 60. So
you've been at it a decade, right?
Yeah, I've been at it a decade. Yeah, actually, a decade. So 27, and I was 27. Yeah. So think about that. Going into that,
you're a young pup compared to the average age of most agents. And it speaks again to what you're saying, which is personal connection is motivating. It's something that people crave. And your EXP example, 100%, there's a place for the hybrid, right? You're never going to go back to, unless you're at JP Morgan, and I think even they're struggling to say, you've got to be back in the office 5 days a week. And I think their employees are like, okay, I'm going to go find somebody who'll let me work 3 days a week in the office and 2 days a week at home. that hybrid is critically important. It's like a fixture now, and it allows that flexibility of, you're not in Daytona Beach today, you're up in Bradenton where my partner lives. Okay, you can still do your training, but having people in the same room. So I've been honored to be asked to speak at Inman in February in New York City. The reason Inman is so successful is everybody gets together, they have a big party, they learn a ton, and they meet a whole bunch of people that they meet online like you and I are now in person. And it's so much more powerful.
Oh, yeah. So where I was getting with my point is that because we don't have a brokerage, our brokerage is not growing locally. We have about 14, 15 agents, and we had about 14, 15 agents for 3 years. Yeah. It's not going up, it's not going down, it stays the same. Yeah. And the other thing that I've realized after the lawsuit happened last summer was that you need to meet your clients now and give them a presentation, no matter if it's a listing presentation to a potential seller or a buyer, and give them a presentation about your worth and values so they'd sign that exclusive agreement with you. And doing it in front of a house on a hood of a car is not as appealing as, hey, welcome to my cool office with my beautiful sign up on the wall, a person at the front desk, coffee served to you, drinks served to you. Like, hey, by the way, you're dealing with me now, not the guy that's going to meet with you on the hood of their car to make you sign an agreement quickly to go look at a house.
I agree wholeheartedly. The personal connection is critically important, and that professional presentation is critically important.
Yeah. And then I've started with KW when I started my career in real estate, and they really emphasize meeting every single person at the office prior to going out and showing them, because you want to eliminate the looky-loos. They're not going to show up at the office. They're not going to show up at the office. They are not serious potential buyers.
Yeah, I completely agree with you.
Time on that. Let them go call someone else and go look at 10 houses and then disappear
and waste somebody else's time.
Correct. And this is a typical thing for us in Florida because we have so many transient people coming through for events and vacations, and it's a rainy day, let's go look at some houses because we don't have anything else to do. We can't go to the beach, there's nothing else to do. So they just call an agent, you show them a few houses, then they disappear. Back to wherever they came from. And that's so common. And now every time a buyer calls, it's like, hey, but before we go out and look at houses, we're going to go sit down. Let's go to Starbucks and sit down and have a conversation about what I bring to the table and what you're bringing to the table. And if we like each other, we might sign an agreement and work together.
Yeah. Again, because that personal connection allows you to assess a person. 100%.
Correct.
They assess you, you assess them.
Body language is what, 90% of the communication is body language?
Yeah.
So if you don't see the body language, you're over the phone, you only hear a voice, or you're texting. That's even worse because that's just raw text.
Yes.
You don't know the context behind the text. You don't have tonation, nothing. So you're like, how did he meant that? And I had those issues happen. So one-on-one meetings are vital in our business. And this is one of the reasons why I think AI it might take over certain parts of our business, but it's not going to take over our business.
No, the EQ component it's the way we connect as humans. It's the way we feel good about ourselves, our world, our business. It's that personal connection is not going away.
So let's get back on track here. I know I told you about personal questions. Here was one.
It's all good.
In your experience, how do you evaluate whether a target brokerage is a strategic fit versus a costly distraction?
So strategic buyers will always pay more for a brokerage than just economic buyers. And so we have buyers in the marketplace that will say to me, Norma, I want to be in Scottsdale, Arizona. And if they want to be there, then they're going to pay more to be there. There was a French brokerage that wanted to get into the States. They started in Florida. They overpaid for one of our clients' brokerages because they wanted a footprint in the States. So a strategic buyer is an ideal purchaser because they will typically pay the maximum amount of value for a brokerage. The other types of buyers, there's lots of people in the marketplace who understand recruiting through acquisition and are actively working to do that. So those buyers are great because they've done it. So one of our clients has 60 locations, another has 30, right? They know how to do this, Lancelot. It's easy. They've got a program. They know how to transition agents. They know how to run an operation really well. They create good value for the agents upon transition. Those are fun buyers to work with because they're experienced. With a newer buyer, it's always that value proposition. It's okay, if I buy a brokerage with 25 agents and I have 25 agents, how do I ramp up my services so that I service all 25 of those new agents? And how do I create a continuation of the culture that's worked for me with those agents that's consistent with the seller's culture? So there's a bunch of different components that go into a purchase, but if it's done, it's mutually beneficial, right? The only deals that our company likes to do are win-win. So if someone comes in and says, I want to rape and pillage and take advantage of brokerages that are struggling, we'll say,
No.
Go knock yourself out with somebody else. We have no interest in that. What we're interested in is both parties at the end of 3 years saying, this was a good transaction. This served me well. To the purchaser, they've accomplished their objective by growing a larger brokerage, taking their expenses across more agents, realizing that they can operationally run it. It's a positive. To the seller, they've received their money. They've received the continuation of their legacy. They've been able to step back and remove the burden of running the brokerage and yet had a successful transaction. So that's the ideal situation for us. That makes us very happy. And that's always the mantra of any deal. Because it's not like you're buying a car and you're not going to see the person again the minute you drive off the lot. This is a living, breathing business. The whole value is in the agents. You have to have a relationship after closing to transition the agents, make sure your agents are okay, and the legacy of the business, ensure it continues. So it's a longer term relationship.
Oh, for sure. So next question is aimed at systems. This is a thing I hear from a lot of agents. Do you give us leads? Leads.
Yeah.
Now, but you can buy leads, whatever. That's not the main point. What system is actually necessary to be in place to make onboarding and integration smooth for agents, clients, and operations? What are those actual necessity things? Because, okay, if you're not going to give me leads, I'm not coming to you. I'm like, this is your job. That's why I hire you, to get leads and then work the leads. It's not my job to get you leads. My job is to run the back office, to be a legally secure entity here, and to provide you training to be able to get leads on your own. No, correct? Is that in my head, or am I wrong?
No, it's a great question, and every broker will answer it differently. And that's what's interesting about the cultural fit that we look for in an acquisition, is those questions you just raised are critical. If I'm selling and you're buying my brokerage, and I think providing my agents with leads is critically important and something that I do on a regular basis, and your view is you got to go out and hunt them yourself, then that's a cultural difference. And that's going to cause the stickiness of the agents to reduce, because if my agents are used to being spoon-fed and your agents are used to hunting and gathering for themselves, that culture may not work. So those sorts of decisions and conversations are important before you do any sort of transaction.
So if I'm providing you leads, I would require a higher cut, of course, of the overall thing. Yeah. So there's no brokerage that's 100% brokerage that will provide you leads. That's insane, because they'll be like broke in a week or two or a month.
Yeah. Oh, no, there's no money.
So if you want leads, be prepared to pay a higher cost for that, usually, because anything you ask for from a broker requires them to invest funds and build a new system and build new things for that reason. I was just thinking about that, because new agents, they always, I don't know how to get leads. Look at your phone. How many contacts do you have on your phone? Start calling. Yeah. Everybody in your phone needs to know that you're an agent. That's what they taught me, Keller Williams.
Yeah, no, and it's good advice, right?
Yeah.
You're constantly hunting and gathering. That is the nature of an agent. You are constantly selling.
Yeah, exactly. So what are the critical systems, though? Like, you need a CRM? Do you need to provide some kind of like a dot loop or SkySlope or whatever they are out there, program for contract preparation, paperwork, signing? Do you have a number in how much these things cost for a broker? And is it investments that, like, what is that minimum agent count that it's worth to invest in these things? Or as a single broker starting a new brokerage, you're starting recruiting, you have maybe an agent or two in your brokerage. Is it worth investing in something like that? Or is it, hey, just run an Excel sheet for now? What are those things that are dominant in these acquisitions and or building one and then build it to sell? What are those things?
Yeah, no, it's a fantastic question, and it is not within my area of expertise. So
Uh,
what my business partner does through Inner Circle Broker Coaching is he does exactly that. So he helps his clients scale profitably. And though everything that you just asked me, I don't know, but he does.
I have a podcast too. Ask him these questions. No,
Yeah, I'll connect you after. I'm sure he would enjoy it. As I say, he's a Bradenton, Florida resident, a fellow Florida guy. But yeah, they're all, and particularly in this market with low transaction count, you can't afford to go out and say, I'm gonna purchase every single program that's out there, because then you're not profitable. So
correct.
it's a balancing act, and he is an expert at determining how to scale while remaining profitable, which is tough, right? You and I both know when you're growing something, you're usually short on cash because the growth requires investment.
Correct. So, what timelines and structures create a clean and profitable transition?
My partner and some of our clients have a saying that time kills all deals. And we believe that 60 to 90 days from the time you start the conversation, Lancelot, to the time you close the actual transaction is perfect. Anything longer than that, and it's tough to maintain confidentiality, it's tough to maintain enthusiasm, the momentum sort of wanes. Whereas anything shorter than that, we've done, like we've literally closed deals on a weekend, which is stressful as heck. We've closed deals within 2 weeks where there's a health issue and it has to go. But 60 to 90 days from the time you have your valuation and you're ready to rock and roll to the time you actually close is a perfect time frame.
Okay. Do these transactions come with the real estate attached to it if they have brick and mortar? And would that be structured into the deal as a long term play, seller hold, or anything like that? Or would it be like, hey, you're buying the properties in a separate entity, you buy that separately, and then you buy the brokerage separately? Or how do these things work?
It's another fabulous question because it depends. So we have had a transaction recently where the purchaser bought the brokerage and the building out of which the brokerage ran. Two different companies, two different transactions, but worked brilliantly. And the purchaser is now going to move their head office to the real estate they just bought. So it's like a complete win-win, phenomenal. We've had a lot of other situations where they will buy the business and then they will lease from the owner of the building, which is also the selling broker. So they'll do a 1-year lease, they'll do a 5-year lease, they'll do a 3-year lease, just depending on sort of their view on how they're going to create the synergies with the purchase. So it depends on the purchaser's financial ability and risk tolerance. And it also depends on the strategic fit. So with the one where they bought the building and the business, it's a perfect fit for them. It allows them to move from one state to another, lower tax jurisdiction, move their head office. It's a brilliant strategy. On the other one, there were 2 locations, and the purchase, we just closed this purchase last week. They are going to rent both locations, one of which is owned by the selling broker.
Got you. How can owners protect their agents, clients, operations, and personal wealth during the exit process?
So the biggest issue is confidentiality. There's about 3 or 4 boutiques like ours that help real estate brokers buy and sell companies. There's a broader sort of business brokers that do it as well, but we focus on that niche, right? And the biggest challenge is, so you as an agent, if I come to you and say, I've got a beachfront property, Lancelot, but I'm going to sell it myself. You'll say to me, okay, let's talk, because it's a dumb idea. I have no ability to sell my property myself. I have no expertise. I have no network. I haven't done it before. Why would I sell it myself? I'm going to leave thousands of dollars on the table and get a big headache. Same concept with brokerages, right? So if you build this 100 agent brokerage, we had one in Arizona, nice man, grew it to 120 agents, and he thought he could sell it himself. And I said to him, like, yes, you can sell it yourself, but let me do it, because first of all, I'm going to get you more money. And secondly, the minute you pick up the phone and tell your competitor that you want to sell, word's going to be across the entire state. Like, everybody you know is going to know, oh, he called and said he wanted to sell. In that situation, he tried to do it himself for about 6 months, and really nice person, a client of my partner's. And one day I called him up and I said, can I help you? I've got a couple buyers. I know they're interested. I think I can get you double what you are trying to negotiate here. Because he called and he was frustrated with the transaction. And didn't we end up closing it within 90 days for more than double what he was talking about getting with the for sale by owner approach? So that's the benefit we bring, is we can, if you come to me and you have a 75 agent brokerage, Lancelot, and you say, I want to sell, Norma, great. I don't tell anybody that it's you that wants to sell. You and I set our sale objectives. We do the valuation so we know what you're worth. And then I go out to the 6 or 7 prospective buyers that you and I've identified as being culturally good for you. And I go to our top 2 prospects and I say, okay, I've got a brokerage. It's 50 to 100 agents. It's in Central Florida. It has a gross sales volume of 150 million. Right? Like, I walk through the metrics and I say, we're going to need 100,000 down and 200,000 paid over the next 2 years. Is this something you're interested in? And if they say no, I'm like, okay, great. They never know that it's you that's looking to sell. If they say yes, they sign an NDA before they ever see your valuation. So it protects that confidentiality, which I always tease. We had a real estate broker. He used to help us. Great guy, Irish guy, nicest man. He was the type of guy, Lancelot, where if you wanted everybody on the street to know by dinner time what something you were doing, you would tell him at 9 a.m. it was a secret. Right? And that's the real estate industry. It, like, rumors spread like wildfire.
I mean, it happened with Watson in our area too, that they were like, oh, they're selling off their assets. And my broker's like, you know any Watson agents? Go start. And that's the thing that I would say you're trying to protect with this as well, is your agent count. Because agent count gives you more revenue, gives you higher valuation. So if you go out there and call another broker, hey, you want to buy my company? Now that broker knows he might tell XYZ broker, and somebody along the line is not a straight shooter.
100%. And they're going to poach.
Yeah, they're going to poach. It's like, I heard your boss is trying to sell you guys out. You guys want to come over here before he sells, and da da da. And then you just notice that your books, you start losing agent count and everything. Like, holy cow, what did I do? Oh, now
you lose control of the message. 100%. So confidentiality is the biggest thing we provide, and then that generates more money for your brokerage when you ultimately sell, because you're preserving that value while you're in the process of finding a buyer. So
that makes a lot of sense, because I would have thought trying to sell on your own would be like, because you didn't know that places exist that sell brokerages.
That's why I say it's a niche.
Yeah, it is a pretty cool niche, I think. So what is the biggest mistake in brokerage succession planning?
One issue is, so let's say I have 4 children. I have 2 boys and 2 girls. And let's say that I run a 100 agent real estate brokerage, and my eldest daughter works with me in the business and she loves it. And I think she's going to be a perfect buyer of it. One of the biggest challenges you have with succession planning is treating the other 3 children equally. That's something we work with a lot. So what we'll do is we'll value it, and then we'll value her contribution to it, because obviously the fact that she's worked there for years, she's maybe managing the place, has value, right? And you have to give her that value. You can't just treat her like one of the 4. But you also have to realize that what you've created has value to a third party. And so you have to create some structure where she's buying into the value of the brokerage, or the other 3 own some portion of a minority shareholding, so they get profits each year, so they're at least benefiting. So that's one challenge with succession planning, is treating all 4 children in my example fairly, maybe not equally, but fairly, where they're all taken into account. The other succession issues are people don't want to realize that they're going to die. It's just human nature. And so it's the concept of not even turning your mind to it at all. And then so we have a couple brokerages in Florida where owners are in their 80s and they haven't transferred yet to children or to a third party. And now the children are trying to figure out how to sell it, but mom and dad still own it. That's challenging. That's a difficult situation because mom and dad are not necessarily capable of making those decisions anymore. And the kids in this situation, there's 3 children, they have no interest in owning it and they want to sell it to a third party. That's hard. So succession planning in that capacity is difficult. The sooner you create a succession plan, and we do a lot of succession plan work, the more relaxed the family is because they know what the plan is, right? We have another fellow, I chatted with him earlier this week, 77, still active in his business, an amazing guy, but he's now thinking about sale. Of course, that makes sense, right? You're only going to live so long and you want to sell it when you're on top. You don't want to sell it when you can't even tell me what your name is.
Oh yeah, definitely. Look at these ages that we just talked about, 80, 70. That's what I talked about earlier. What is the average age of a real estate agent? We're like a dying breed in a way.
Well, and you know what's awesome, Lancelot? What's awesome is we have owners in their 80s that still come into the office every day. God bless them. That's phenomenal. But you should be thinking about succession because you can still come into as we talked about, it's a 3-year transition generally. You could still come into the office for the next 3 years. But if you take care of your succession, then you don't worry about it. Then it doesn't become an estate problem.
Correct.
And also, when people die, the value of their brokerage often decreases. So that's another issue. I need to plug in my computer, apparently.
Oh, I have one more chapter left here, and we're going to start talking about your book. You co-authored The Complete Guide to Buying and Selling Real Estate Brokerages, 10 Steps to Success. What gap did you want this book to fill in the industry?
What you and I talked about is the inclination of real estate brokers, because they're really good salespeople, to try to sell their brokerages themselves. And the intent of the book was to educate them if they're going to do that, but also to show them that there's a better way that will generate more money for them, or a better situation, a better cultural fit, a better exit, a better legacy, a better transition with our assistance. So those 2 reasons. It's to educate about the process and provide them with the option of hiring someone who's a specialist at doing what they need to do.
That makes a lot of sense. And how should brokers use this book, whether they're building, buying, or preparing to sell?
So my partner teases that he doesn't read a book unless there's pictures in it. So there are pictures in it, and it's very user friendly. It's not a tough read. It's a guide. It's literally a guide to help you navigate the purchase or sale of a brokerage. So it just, what you and I've covered in this podcast, it sets out in steps.
Got you. And if someone listening wants to start this journey today, where should they begin?
So the book's a great place to begin. Your podcast is a great place to begin. We have a website, BrokerVMA.com. We've got all sorts of resources there. It's really a matter of determining your objectives of either sale or purchase, and then having someone help you achieve those objectives. Again, going back to what we talked about before we started recording, when you write something down, subconsciously you move towards it. And so if your objective in 2026 is, I want to grow, I want to recruit through acquisition, then you set those objectives, right? You say, okay, what are my goals? Okay, I'm currently at 50 agents. I want to be at 100 by the end of 26. Great. Write it down and then start to seek out resources to help you get there. So that's what BrokerVMA.com's website does. That's what the book does. That's what podcasts like yours do. It's all about Again, what we talked about before we started is the constant improvement. You're constantly trying to do stuff that makes you a little uncomfortable and pushes you forward. And when you write something down, you're far more likely to move towards it than if you just say it.
Norma, thank you for bringing unmatched clarity to one of the most important and least understood parts of our industry. Whether you're growing, acquiring, or preparing your exit, this conversation underscored one truth. Your brokerage is a business, and a business deserves a strategy. For everyone listening, you can connect with Norma at BrokerVMA.com or on LinkedIn at Norma Rawlings. And don't forget to check out her book, The Complete Guide to Buying and Selling Real Estate Brokerages, 10 Steps to Success. If today's episode delivered value, share it with another broker who wants to scale with intention. Subscribe, leave a review, and join us next time on the Real Estate Roundtable, where we continue to elevate the business of real estate. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Lancelot.
Thank you for joining us on Sir Lancelot's Real Estate Roundtable, where we've unveiled the mysteries of real estate together. Remember, in this kingdom of possibilities, every dream home is just a discussion away. I can help your real estate dreams come true. Just call me at 786-449-7518. Until our next roundtable, may your ventures be prosperous and your homes be filled with love and joy. Farewell, fellow knights of real estate.